Okay, so we have it mounted. I probably should have cut it round on a bandsaw, but I'll get there eventually. So I'm going to start out my roughing cuts. I have just finished a marathon session of sharpening all my gouges. All my bowl gouges, anyway. So right at this point, they're all sharp. This wood, when I used it to make a door about 20 years ago, the wood was all sanded and painted, so a surface that's been sanded probably still has embedded grit from the sandpaper, which is hard on cutting edges, and paint is latex paint is basically clay, liquefied clay, so it's also hard on cutting edges. So probably by the time I get this roughed down, this gouge will be dull, but in the meantime I'll get started here. And it's already lost its edge. This side's still sharp though. So I use it to finish getting down the round anyway. And I'll clean that paint off the face while I'm still using this gouge, so maybe the edge will last longer on the next gouge. Okay. Now, as you can see, that surface is torn out pretty good. At least I hope you can see that. So this area here is torn out. The grain is running this way. So over here, now I've got the grain running this way. This is like the edge of a board. If I'm like hand planing on the edge of a board, you can get a nice smooth surface. As I come around here, now the grain's running this way, I'm starting to cut across end grain, and I get quite a bit of tear out. And the same thing on the other side. Now that's mainly because that gouge, I say mainly, because that gouge had lost its edge from cutting through the paint and the sanded wood. So now this is another 5/8 bowl gouge that is still fresh from the sharpening process. So I'm going to take a pass with it to see what difference we get on the tear out. Okay, so that was, I know I wasn't standing over here and pulling, but that was a full cut. That's the way the gouge was oriented to the wood. The handle was ahead of the cutting edge, and I was pulling across using the portion of the edge just to my right of the nose. And you can see it is considerably better, but it's still not great. So now I'm going to make a pass. I'm going to lower the handle and use this part of the cutting edge back here in a shearing cut. I may have to back that out a bit here. In a shearing cut to see what difference that makes. Okay, so now you can see that that is much better. That is pretty much pretty well an acceptable surface for me anyway. Except of course it's not the shape I want it to be for a bowl, but that is the kind of surface that I want to get off the tool. So that was using the long wing of a side ground gouge in shearing mode with the handle well down and this edge presented to the workpiece almost at the same angle a skew chisel would be cutting on a spindle. So now I'm going to make a cut with a traditional grind or standard grind or whatever you want to call them. So that's a push cut. And that surface looks, well, no it doesn't. I was going to say it looks just as good as the shear cut, but it's not quite. I have some torn grain here. It's not what I would call tear out so much. And it's probably, you can't even see it with it oriented over here until I get it rotated down there. I can't see it. So until the light is hitting it at an angle. There's a little bit of torn grain right in this area. And the same thing here, not quite as bad on this side. So using the same gouge, that was with the handle low in, I guess, a hogging cut, where the cut was going on just to the left of the nose in a pushing cut. So I will, now I'm going to raise the handle, and I'm going to make the cut using this wing, which will give it a much more of a shearing action. that's actually far worse. Amazing. I would have thought that would have cleaned that right up. Alright. So I'll go back to the original cut, only I'll move from my left to right instead of right to left as I did the first time. And it almost feels as though that gouge is dull. Let me try coming back that other way again. Okay, it cut fine up in that direction, except for the tear out, of course. Huh. Let me try that again. Oh. Well. I'm going to switch gouges. Now this one's freshly sharpened. That one was as well, but maybe I didn't quite get it the way I should have. I'm going to try that again. It doesn't feel much better. Still have tear out here. Huh. Much better, but still, it's there. It's not what I would consider an acceptable surface at this point. I'm going to try cutting in the opposite direction. And I can't really, that's maybe a little better, but not enough better. I'll try the shearing cut with the trailing wing. And that is considerably worse. So, I'm going to go back, and this is a 1/2 inch side ground gouge. I'm going to do the shearing cut. This one's freshly sharpened.